kind of amazed that this always happens. Anyway, I'm uh, welcome to Sunday Night Live in on this side of the world, and welcome to Monday Morning Live on that side of the world. As you can imagine, I'm still here, and so let's see. We got a lot of people coming in. Okay, good. All right, so you all know about tomorrow, April 8th. Who knows what that means tomorrow, right? Who knows? Usually, if they make a big deal about things, nothing happens because they would love to catch us by surprise. So, but I looked it up. It doesn't look like it's much more than a normal solar eclipse. So there's no reason for any problems to occur unless, of course, you send up. I don't know if NASA sends up a satellite, and then the European Union sends up a rocket. If the European Union sends up a rocket, and then if you turn on CERN, which is the Hadron Collider, things could happen, right? If that were to happen. Anyway, the idea is to keep us dazed and confused, right? Right. So anyway, I had it was strange because I thought I was leaving, but I'm not leaving, so I'm here for a little while longer. Anyway, so welcome to Sunday Night Live again, and let's see what's the news here. What should I tell you guys right now? Come on, there we go. Yeah. All right, now I've been mentioning to everyone that if you're in the United States or wherever, but mostly the U.S., Canada, maybe some parts of Europe, and you've got an immediate problem with CFCs, contact our center in Arizona, okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're in our 19th year now, and I've been around this planet quite a bit, and I can't seem to find places that are comprehensive. It's baffling to me because I certainly don't keep it a secret, and anybody who studies a holistic approach, a natural approach. It's not necessarily natural, but it's just holistic or integrative approach to treating anything, taking care of any condition that's deviates from health. You realize that you have to deal with the entire aspect of the human being. And it's clear that we're not just bodies. It's not like you take your car into the garage and have it fixed. There's a driver in the car. That driver has to be dealt with because that driver, could drive the car off the cliff. So you got to deal with the driver. And then also, you got to make sure the driver's putting in the right kinds of fuel and changing the oil and doing things like that. So if we wanted to use a mechanistic metaphor here, we could, although we really can't because the human condition is triune, spirit, body, mind, complex. It's not that it's three separate things, because there are no things anywhere in the universe. There's only energy. There's only frequency. So it's not three separate things. It's multiple frequencies going through and from different levels. And that's what we are. So you can't deal with the physical, what we see as the physical aspect, without dealing with the mind, and with which is all grounded in spirit. So anyway, so it's not a secret, and I'm not sure why there are no comprehensive centers around anywhere. I usually find that they're either, like Hippocrates, which is excellent, probably one of the greatest, oldest centers for learning how to eat healthy. But then there are other parts to lifestyle, right? Other than eating, like sleeping, not eating, the time that you don't eat, eating versus not eating, movement versus rest, both are necessary, just like night and day are both necessary. So to not be comprehensive when you're dealing with human beings is to completely miss the whole idea. So I'm not sure why it doesn't exist, but it doesn't. So if you are feeling, if you do have, if you've been given the, had a spell cast on you, the word diagnosis, try to come up with other words for it when you're talking about it. Because really, it just means to know, to put a name on something, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't help in any way to put a name on it, because it doesn't change what it is, or what that process is, because there are no it's in the universe. There's only process. But putting a name on it, people always say, but it's don't let it be. Don't let them put that on you. That's not what you are. Whatever their interpretation of your microscopic anatomy of the piece of tissue they took off you is not who you are. Anyway, but if you're having problems in those areas, please call an Oasis of Healing in Arizona. You can find our website at oasisofhealing.com and come there, or give us a call and let us talk with you. Okay. And as you all know, we're on all these social media platforms. So it's only Twitter or X that we're at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. The rest are just at Dr. Thomas Lodi. That includes Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. There is no air in here. Can you believe it? I'm on the first floor. Why would they not open the window? I'm going to jump out and sprain my ankle. Let me see if I can open this door. No way. Can't can't open the door. It's like crazy. It's like being in a cell in prison. No air. Anyway, and remember, all of these live streams are replayed continuously if you want to watch them, except for TikTok. They don't replay. But we're on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. So I thought this week we'd just get into it so that I can try to get as many questions answered as possible. 24. What's today's date? Early, right? So I think the 24th is when we're going to start our new program. In addition to the live streams, we're going to have a general membership where we're going to do, it'll not just be about CFC, chronically fermenting cells. It'll be about, any health related issues. Then there'll be another one that will be parasites, and another one which will be CFCs. So it's going to be great because we're going to focus more on each of those areas. There'll be a lot of good content, and I'm going to be doing more of these kinds of lives, but we'll probably be doing them with Zoom so that we can interact, because that's really important, and deal with questions as they come up rather than just have to read and deal with questions that are already sent in. So let's look at this. Make sure we're on here. Yay, Chicago. What are CFCs? Chronically fermenting cells. Um, so everyone, okay, so let me go over this. I guess it's important because I guess some people are new, and um, we don't like to use the word that the medical profession uses, which we consider just a one of the zodiac signs. Between Gemini and Leo, it's called Cancer. It's a zodiac sign, but it has nothing to do with what's going on inside of anyone's body. But what they're referring to is an adaptive process that cells go through when they lose their ability to use oxygen to make energy, and they start to ferment. And once they've modified the genetic expression, um, turn this gene on, turn that gene off, so that they can do it successfully, then they're chronically fermenting cells, and we call them CFCs. Two reasons. Number one, it's more accurate, it's specific, it's about what's happening, it's therefore communicating better. And number two, it doesn't carry with it that horrible, um, that painful feeling when you hear the word. Because when they say that word, that astrological sign, it's synonymous with death. It's come to mean that, and it's not at all true. I tell you, you know, from the bottom of my heart, my hand on the Bible, and the life of my children and my parents and everything, is that it doesn't mean, it's not a death sentence, just a word. Okay, and many people um, are not are survive that. Just like many people survive heart attacks, many people survive strokes. It's not at all. It's nothing like they've made it into something that it's really not. Yeah, it does what it does, but everything in the universe does what it does because something is causing that, right? Nothing happens spontaneously. So really, we need to identify what's causing what and eliminate it, and it won't exist. It's really what it comes down to. Now, so please use the word chronically fermenting cells so that you understand that that's the actual basic physiology that's going on. That's what's happening. Okay? There's nothing else, and it can be turned off as well. As soon as it's happening, because it wasn't getting the oxygen because of mitochondrial loss. So what do you need to do? You need to get those mitochondria back and eliminate those cells that are too far gone. But get those mitochondria back. But how do you prevent it from occurring again? By eliminating all of the potential toxicities that caused it in the first place. So you get rid of all the toxicities, and then when you start to after the cleansing part, and you're starting to resume a way of life that's compatible with health, then you're eating different foods, you're sleeping at different times, you're moving around, your whole life is different. Okay, so as you resume that, you'll be in a position where you won't be producing the conditions again. Boy, is it stuffy in here, my God. I feel like I'm being... So that's what the CFCs are. So I'm glad you asked that question. You're very welcome, everybody. Yeah, it's a good question here. Is the whole world getting CFCs lately? There is a CFC pandemic. Actually, that was and is the pandemic. Um, and if you look back 100 years ago, very small percentage of people had CFCs. And now, was it 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 deaths in the world are due to CFCs in the world? Right? Some countries more than others, but so we have to ask ourselves why. Because it's certainly not genetic. If it was genetic, then every one of us should have had like one parent and one grandparent with that. But we don't. We don't. So So it's not genetic, so something's causing it. And we actually all know what's causing it. We know it's a combination of all the things that are being done to us to against our will and against our permission. What's being put in the stuff we eat. What is in the stuff we eat? What are they doing to it? I call it stuff because a lot of times it's not food. But what's in that? What they're putting in that against our will. Now, one rule of thumb, please. If what you're going to eat has a label on it, that means they're telling you what they've hidden from you. Don't eat it. You don't need a label for real food. Real food is obvious. So, that's one thing. Then again, our clothing, the chemicals on our clothing, the chemtrails, the electromagnetic frequencies that pretty much, do you realize if we had special glasses on so we could see electromagnetic frequencies, we wouldn't be able to see each other. It's too thick. So it's crazy. And since our bodies are electromagnetic, they're being disrupted at every level because of those. And there's a great book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Firstenberg. Really, really good book about what's probably going on. It has to do with electromagnetic frequencies. Anyway, let's answer these questions. This is from Luca. It's difficult to find good Lugol's iodine product. Can you recommend a brand? Thank you. Yes. Lugol's is the only one I know of that's liquid. And you might be able to go to a compounding pharmacy, see if they have any Lugol's. But if not, you can go online and find Iodoral, Iodoral. Basically the same combination as Lugol's, and it comes in a tablet form. This is from Fernanda, yeah. How to eat to increase muscle mass and weight gain due to weight loss from CFCs, currently bone, brain, and liver. Well, this condition is pretty much referred to as cachexia, and in the elderly we call it sarcopenia. They're not quite the same, but very similar. When a younger person who's not, who would not normally be sarcopenic, as an elderly person, when that starts to happen, that they lose muscle mass, is because the organs and muscles are being used now for fuel. So the fat has pretty much been lost, not only the external peripheral fat, but the visceral fat around the organs. And so one thing you want to make sure you eat is lots of fats, including chia porridge, flax seeds, nuts, seeds, nut butters, seed butters, coconut oil, all this stuff. You need those fats because you've got to be able to build up the charge in the cell to bring it up to 70 millivolts in order to heal. But to improve muscle, you're going to need a certain amount of protein or amino acids. Remember, protein is just 100 or more amino acids, whereas a peptide is 50 or less amino acids. Okay, so that's all it is. Now, you can get amino acids in multiple ways. You can get them from their original source, which is plants. Plants make all 20 amino acids. There are only 20. Animals need to get a certain number of those amino acids, either 9 or 10, whatever, depending on the species. And from those 9 or 10, they can make the rest. Those 9 or 10 are called the essential amino acids. So when amino acids are, and even if you ate a protein from an animal, you ate an animal's body, and you got protein, your body would have to break it down into the constituent amino acids, absorb them individually, and then they would be used at whatever organ or gland needed to produce proteins or peptides. So it's a multiple step process. When you're eating an animal, you've got to break it all down and then absorb. Whereas with the plant, you don't have to break it down as much because there's pretty much amino acids. Now, which is better? Which is more complete? They're both complete. They both have all the amino acids. But they come in different packages and they require different metabolic processes to assimilate them. So as I said, the animal one, it comes in a package of animal fat, and usually animals are not eaten in an uncooked way, so they're eaten cooked, fried or grilled or broiled. And then what happens when that happens? The fat then becomes lethal. It produces what are called aldehydes, which are much, much more deadly than free radicals. And then the actual part of grilling where the so that's kind of the package you get the amino acids in. Whereas if you ate some fruit or vegetables and you didn't heat them up at all, you'd be getting the amino acids, and it'd be a simple thing to separate them from whatever they were connected to, and then absorb them. So that's the difference. So, but you do need a good source of a good amount of amino acids to help build your body up again. And again, remember, you still need the fats as well. So it really doesn't change. It's about 60% fat, healthy fats, and maybe 30%. Even though I say 30% protein, as it turns out, you can't really use that much. Your body will if you get excess protein, your body starts turning it into glucose. So one thing to keep in mind when we are infants, when we are breastfeeding, when we're first born, and like all mammals, whether it's a deer, an elephant, giraffe, dog, cat, all mammals, they have a specific nutrient content to the milk. And in that nutrient, in the milk is certain percentage and ratio of protein, which comes in the form of casein. Casein is probably the most predominant protein in all mammalian milk. Fat, and then carbs. Those are the three macronutrients. And then, of course, it'll have all of the micronutrients that the mother had been able to acquire from her diet. But what's interesting is that the percentage of casein or protein in each mammal's milk correlates with the amount of time until weaning, which also correlates with the amount of time, doubling time of the body weight and size. Because casein, the protein in milk, stimulates rapid tissue proliferation. So that's why it's used in milk. And infants are growing faster than they will ever grow in their entire life cycle. Right? They need to double their weight and size in a specific period of time in order to become viable after they were born. And this is dependent largely upon the amount of casein, percentage of casein. So if we look at that, we can kind of get an idea of how much protein a specific species, mammalian species, needs during the time of its life where it's growing the fastest, and that's infancy, right? We double in size. We don't double as adolescents. We don't go from 4 feet to 8 feet. Okay. So if we look at it, we see that humans have about 5% of the calories in milk, mother's milk, is casein, protein. Chimps about 7%. And then, cows, horses, 11, 13, up to goats, 15, up horses up to 23%, dogs 32%. All the dogs, the hyenas and wolves and stuff like that. Get to the cats are up to 38%, and then you get up to the rat. For some reason, it's 49%. But the rat doubles its size and weight in 4 days and then is weaned. So that amount of casein was necessary. And I guess because of the lifestyle of a rat, they better get themselves together quickly and get out of there. So that's what happens. 4 days and they're gone out of the nest. Whereas you look at the elephant, what is it, 18 months? It's much longer. So it really, really, really depends um, um, on the amount of casein. Now, when weaning comes, when it's time to wean, the mother just weans, just says, "That's it. I'm not gonna allow you to drink milk anymore." And they're pretty, they might let it a little bit, but they're pretty strict. They're pretty strict. It's like non-negotiable. We're done. And for a good reason, because casein, you don't want to continue tissue proliferation after you've achieved a certain weight and size, because now excess tissue proliferation could be a problem, right? CFCs are proliferating tissue. And in fact, it's been associated, casein has been associated with CFCs. In fact, it's one of the most carcinogenic substances ever studied, although it's absolutely essential at early life. Okay, so, but in any case, so when someone has cachexia, they need to be getting enough protein. And you can get, if you're eating, like for example, spinach, 49% of the caloric intake is protein. Broccoli, like 36. High amounts. I mean, dead cows, which we call beef, is only 26%. So by mixing a few of the either two or three, and you can look up on somehow look up the nutrient content of like spinach, nutrient content of broccoli, nutrient content of bok choy, nutrient content of whatever, and then it'll give you the amount, the percentage of different nutrients. And then when you see say protein, then what you want to do is look for the amino acid content of the proteins, and you find out. So get a chart, get two charts, get 2 charts, one chart of all the amino acids, all 20 of them, and then get another chart which shows you the 9 amino acids that are essential for human beings. And you keep that there in front of you, and you can see, okay, as long as you get those 9 essential amino acids, you'll have what's called a complete protein, right? Because you can make the other 11. So when you're looking at the nutritional content of plants, you'll find that maybe this plant is got 7 of them, and this plant's got of the essential amino acids. This plant's got 8. This plant's got 6. Whatever. But as long as you can see, and you can get an idea, and you say, all right, so if I eat these 2 or I eat these 3 or whatever, I can get the complete protein. And that's a salad. You make up a salad, and you've got a complete protein going on. It's really that easy. The other thing is chia seeds. For example, chia seeds. So for the cachexia, very important chia. Chia has 18 amino acids, all 9 of the essentials, and all but 2 of the non-essentials. So it's fantastic. It's also got omega-3s and omega-6s, which are the essential fatty acids. And it's also got a soluble protein, which when arriving at the colon is able to be metabolized by bacteria into short-chain fatty acids, which are really important part of our health. So a pretty amazing food. So that, and then another thing that is very important for cachexia is glucosamine. Glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid, and as a lot of you may know, it's one of the 2 fuels for CFCs. CFCs can ferment both glucose and glutamine. So one would probably say, well, I don't want that. But you do, because it turns out that, and we've talked about this before, whatever is necessary for CFCs to survive, the same is necessary for healthy cells to survive. They need it. Okay? So it's not like you can starve one and not starve. It's not like you can starve CFCs without starving yourself. Because remember, the one thing about healing from any condition, especially CFCs, is this. Whatever you're doing as a program to deal with this, or treat it as it's called, you must at the same time be enhancing and supporting the growth of and um, enhancement of the health of the non-CFCs. All right. So in other words, your body must be, all the non-CFC cells must be able to, must be just at a state of excellent health, so that they're doing their job perfectly. And so when the CFCs are eliminated, um, the healing is easy. The healing part is very easy. And remember, CFCs are there because of they've lost their mitochondria. So the healthier you make your other tissues, the more likely you are to eliminate those CFCs. It's really uh, what happens, and I'm sure you've seen this if you've been working with a conventional doctor. They go after, they declare war on the CFCs, and they use chemo, radiation. Now they have these more targeted therapies, and they go after the CFCs, but they pay no attention to the rest of the body. In fact, they tell you it doesn't even matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you do. The only one thing they say is don't smoke. I wonder, it's really bizarre. Um, Not that that's not true, of course, don't smoke, but there's so many other things as well. But that seems to be the only thing. Other than that, you can eat anything you want. But that's just not true. So while dealing with the CFCs to eliminate them, you need to be supporting the health of the rest of your body, because you've got to be healthy. Your body has got to be um, functioning optimally. Remember, health is really optimal functioning of the organism. All right, and the healthier the rest of your cells are, the CFCs will no longer need to be. They're gone. So if you focus more on health rather than trying to combat something, you'll find that by restoring health, this goes away. Not only are there no CFCs, but there's no diabetes, there's no arthritis, there's nothing. So the goal needs to be health, not the elimination of any particular manifestation of toxicity, which is what it all is. It's all toxicity. And so the glutamine, when I was talking about glutamine, yes, it can be brought into the Krebs cycle, which is ferment, to make energy. But it's also necessary for cells to make amino acids, which they need. They need to make proteins, amino acids. They need to make nucleotides, for nucleic acids, for genetic material. So it's necessary for that. And it's just like the glucose is not only necessary for fuel, but it's also the carbon backbone for many, many different kinds of molecules we need to make, or tissues that we need to make. Cholesterol, which is very important. Fatty acids, very important. They make up our membranes of our cells, that maintains the integrity of the cell, and also interacts with the outside environment, and then signals the cell what to do. So these are not just fuels; they're also parts. They're also necessary for the synthetic capabilities of the body to produce new cells. So you can't eliminate it. And then it turns out that glutamine is also the primary fuel source for our enterocytes, which are the cells of our small intestines. And those are the cells that are necessary for digestion, breakdown of food products, and absorption. So if those aren't optimally functioning, you'll be malnourished. So you can't not provide that. Glutamine is also the primary fuel source for our lymphocytes, which are T cells, NK cells. These cells that are absolutely necessary to eliminate the CFCs. So you can't not get glutamine. You can't not get glucose, but it means with the glucose, you don't want to get it in any other way than its natural form. When I say natural, what do I mean? I mean it's the end product of photosynthesis. Okay, so in photosynthesis, a plant will drink the water from its roots. It will breathe in the carbon dioxide, and that combination produces glucose and oxygen. That's what photosynthesis does. So the end product, the two end products of photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen, which just happen to be the two molecules that go into our mitochondria for us to produce energy. We get 6 oxygens and 1 glucose, and it goes in and we make energy in the form of ATP. Pretty amazing. But anyway, glucose in that form, which you'll find in any plant that photosynthesizes, any green plant, that in that form is what we need. What we don't need it is in processed refined sugars or things like that, but we need it in that. So you can't not get glucose. If you ate, you eat spinach and you eat broccoli, you're getting glucose, but you're getting it in its natural. Hey, like YouTube and what are the Rumble and all that. Are you guys still on? Hello, hello, hello. Did we lose our connection? Hmm. Hello, sorry ka. Um, there's that. There's that. You guys, we still on? Okay, cool. You're on. Okay, great. What was this here? Does taking NAC assist? Okay, there's a lot of questions I see coming up about glutamine. It's pretty interesting. The thing about glutamine is not to worry about it. It is a non-essential amino acid, which means our body makes it. Okay, as long as we get the nine essential amino acids, we'll make glutamine. Now, glutamine also happens to be the most abundant amino acid in our body, and it's involved in so many important reactions. For example, glutamine is necessary for production of glutathione. So someone here asked about NAC. Does that help with glutamine? Well, no. NAC is N-acetylcysteine, which is just a particular form of cysteine. So if one wants to increase their glutathione levels, you don't take glutathione orally, because if you take glutathione orally, it's three amino acids, so it's a tripeptide. It'll go into your stomach, and you're right in the stomach where there's pepsinogen and pepsin and acid and all that. It starts to break it down. By the time it gets into your small intestines, if you have like two of them together, like it's instead of three amino acids, but it's now two. So instead of being a tripeptide, maybe it's a dipeptide. And if it is, it'll be broken apart by enzymes from the pancreas, and then your body can only absorb individual amino acids. So it will absorb each individual amino acid of the glutathione you took, and they'll go into the amino acid pool and be used wherever necessary. So you're not necessarily going to get glutathione. However, if you take N-acetylcysteine, which is the one of the amino acids in glutathione, if you take that, it's what they call the rate limiting amino acid. So by taking it, the other two are easy to get. All cells have those. By taking extra NAC, what's happening is you're now increasing that influx into cells, because it's a single amino acid. And now the cell will be able to make more glutathione. In fact, we use NAC in the ICUs for people that have taken acetaminophen overdoses in Tylenol, which is what Tylenol is, because that the acetaminophen has a direct toxic effect. It's called a hepatotoxin on the liver, and people will die of liver failure. But the NAC prevents that from happening, because it's putting in so much cysteine that the cells in the liver are making lots of glutathione and are able to detoxify it. So that's where that comes in. Yeah, I got some letter on lung flukes, or not on lung flukes, on hydatid cyst. But I'll talk about these in a moment. I'll talk about these in a moment. Yes. So anyway, so glutamine turns out to be very helpful with cachexia, um, and there's many papers on it. But probably one of the main things that happens with glutamine is not only do you heal the gut so that you can absorb better, get better, make use of your of what you ingest, of your nutrition, but also the enhancement of the lymphocytes and T cells far outweighs any kind of benefit that the CFCs might get from the glutamine. And remember that the T cells are going to eliminate CFCs. So, but getting excess, you can get extra proteins by a good amount of vegetables is, as I said, is going to give it to you. If you wanted to go further than that, you can get pea protein, from peas, or there's lots of vegan types of proteins, amino acids, not proteins. Remember, proteins is 100 or more amino acids. You can't absorb it. You got to break it down. It requires extra work. Okay, so you don't want protein. You want amino acids. Okay, and the best source of amino acids, of course, is plants. That's where they're made. That's where they come from. That's where the animal gets it ultimately. No animal can make an amino acid unless they have an amino acid to make it from, because it requires taking nitrogen out of the atmosphere, out of the air, and putting it onto a carboxylic acid group to form an amino acid. So 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen, 21% is oxygen, and about 0.9% is argon, and then small amounts of CO2 and other things. And so, that argument about greenhouse gases and CO2 overwhelming the earth, when in fact it consists of like less than 1% of the air or of the atmosphere. And I think the human production of the human contribution to that 1% of the CO2 that's in the atmosphere is 3%. So 3% of that, less than 1%, is what we do. And by the way, you remember a moment ago I was talking about how the photosynthesis, that the plant drinks the water and then breathes in the CO2 so that it can produce oxygen, which means that the more CO2 you have, the more plants will grow. The more you plant plants, the more you'll be able to suck up the CO2. So it would be pretty much impossible to get too much CO2, especially if you had more plants. I'm just saying, I think we've been fooled again. Can you believe it? YouTube's good. Okay, good. You were talking about the Krebs cycle and how the plant. It's not you. Huh. Some really good questions. I have to answer them. I'm sorry. It says, do coffee enemas really increase glutathione? They do, in that if you do the coffee enema right, which I think we've discussed multiple times, clean out your colon first, or the rectum first, saltwater enema, and then you take 2 tablespoons of the special coffee for enemas, which means it's been roasted no more than 45 seconds, so it's blonde. They call it blonde coffee or green coffee. 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of the coffee, bring it to a boil, let it simmer down to 1 cup of water. Now you got really concentrated. let it cool off, pour it through a strainer, through a mesh or a metal strainer, not on paper. And then after you've cleaned your colon out, you've cleaned your rectum out, then you put in the 1 cup, and you put about 3 or 4 or 5 pillows under your hips so that everything rolls uphill, and make sure that it just goes over the lining uh, of the of the colon, rectum, and then colon. Then it'll be absorbed up into the liver, and it'll what's being absorbed is kawahol and kafakol, as well as caffeine. And both of those stimulate an enzyme called glutathione transferase, which helps with in the with every time glutathione donates its electrons to neutralize something, it's now it itself is oxidized, and it couldn't do anything else. So the glutathione transferase keeps renewing it. So it keeps renewing it. It's very important. And that's part of phase 2 detoxification of the liver. But if you keep in mind that cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, bok choy, cabbage, cauliflower, blah, 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 all increase all 4 or 5 different enzymes of the phase 2 detoxification, including glutathione transferase, then you realize that, gosh, all I got to do is take a couple handfuls of, or 3 handfuls, that's a ton, of broccoli sprouts, put them in a blender with some other kind of flax seeds and nut milks and blueberries or whatever, and then have a smoothie, and I will have gotten we've gotten a big boost to my phase 2 detoxification. So yeah, that was one of the questions. What's the best way to alkalize the body? Juices, greens, eat greens and drink green vegetable juices, because they have minerals. They have magnesium, calcium, iron, all the positively charged atoms in the periodic table they grab electrons and they bring them in. So it's kind of like they bring in electrons. And what are electrons? Alkalinization. So that's how you alkalinize. All right. Drinking alkaline water just winds up making your stomach acid less acidic, but it doesn't change your body's alkalinity. Drinking green juices, eating lots of greens. Yeah. Now, so cachexia, that's it. And the other one with cachexia is exercise. And keep in mind that we also need to have our hormones balanced. Okay. So testosterone is necessary for muscles, regardless of what gender you are. And by the way, um, both genders produce the same hormones, but in different proportions. So the XX gender will produce more estrogens and progesterone, and the XY gender will produce more testosterone, but they both need both. Okay, so it's just percentages, ratios, frequencies that are different. Okay. Anyway, testosterone helps maintain muscle mass. So you got to have testosterone, and you got to have, in order to have testosterone, you got to have. So for a woman, uh, testosterone is made in the adrenal glands mostly, and which means you got to have lots of DHEAS. So that's one thing to check with all of you, with your doctor, is check your DHEAS. The DHEA with an S on it, sulfate, it's just a storage form of DHEA in the body. But DHEA is a precursor to estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So if you don't have enough of that, obviously you won't make enough of the other one. So you want to have that optimized, and testosterone. So then the other one is different kinds of movements. You want to increase type 2 muscle fibers, right? And you can do that by many different ways. You can watch some of the podcasts with Darren and I on that. Talks a lot about that. But, one thing that we can all do every day is, if you're sitting in a chair, is get up to a standing position at about the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then sit down at about the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, near the end there, you're really holding. That's going to build up your type 2 muscle fibers. Do that 5 times, and then do that whole series maybe 3 times a day. Climbing a stairs for 70 seconds will do that. And it'll also increase your natural killer cell function. So there's lots of things you can do to build up those kinds of muscle fibers. And if you're getting lots of fat and you're getting lots of enough adequate protein, amino acids, and then cachexia will no longer be necessary. And now you're building up your lymphocytes as well. Okay, and now let's look for another question. Where are we? Yeah, how did it get over here? All right. Alzheimer's. Hi, Dr. Lodi. My sister was diagnosed with early onset dementia 4 years ago. It is now obvious and heartbreaking to see. Please, could you give any recommendations? Many thanks, Marilyn. Well, Marilyn, yeah, it's funny. Just the words. I mean, I know you're using the words that you've heard. Early onset dementia should happen. Well, what if it didn't even have to happen? Neither did autism. Neither did HIV. Neither did COVID. Hmm. Hmm. Anyway, I don't know how old your sister is, and I don't know her lifestyle, but this is what needs to happen. She needs to be well hydrated all the time. She needs to go through a cleanse, whether it's a juice cleanse, which I suggest, because a juice cleanse is fresh vegetable juice. You can get a juicer, the one that is the easiest to use. Um, it's got a big mouth. You can put a lot of stuff in there, and it's easy to clean, and it's good for like a single person. Um, it's called nama, 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 which means raw in Japanese. Anyway, I'm sure there are other ones, good ones. I don't know them all. It's just that we've been using that one at the center. It's pretty nice for the individuals, not for the whole group of people. We have a large industrial size one, but for the individual person, that seems to be good. But anyway, doing like 3 liters, 4 liters a day of no eating, and do this for about 3 weeks. Get some colonics. She needs colon hydrotherapy to get her colon cleaned out twice a week. Um, Chelation. She needs chelation big time. You've got to go to a doctor who knows how to do chelation. You can find that on ACAM, American College for the Advancement of Medicine. Find out where there's a doctor near you that is certified in chelation. American Academy of, what is it called again? Uh, what do they call it? God, I just said it. For the Advancement of Medicine, the American College for the Advancement of Medicine, the American College for the Advancement of Medicine, ACAM. One of the old ones, way before A4M, way before all that sort of thing. I remember them way back, and they used to certify people in chelation way back when. Chelation is important because not only do we have heavy metals just from living in an industrialized world, but there are even more, and they're being dropped on us at night while we sleep as well. So we all need chelation. You don't have to test for it. You can test for it if you want, but I've never found anybody who doesn't have heavy metal problems. But for sure with this, okay? So chelation can be EDTA. It can be either calcium EDTA or disodium EDTA, or it can be DMPS, or it can be orally. You can do oral forms of DMSA and oral EDTA, and even rectal suppositories of EDTA or DMSA. Do a combination. You need to find somebody good. That's what you need to do. And then your sister needs to be getting intravenous vitamin C. They've got to check her G6PD first to make sure she can take it IV. But I would say 25 grams IV. It depends on what's going on with her, but 25 grams. She should be sipping vitamin C 7 to 7. You can do that. You go get something called one brand we found Nutribiotics, but I'm sure there's others. Pure sodium ascorbate. You put it 1 level teaspoon is 4 grams. Put a couple teaspoons in a liter of water. Sip very slowly, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Because that way every sip will be about 150, 200 milligrams. It'll be absorbed. So if you got to do it over 12 hours, it's a long period. You can also get some liposomal. Make sure it's sodium ascorbate in the liposomal. Sodium ascorbate, not ascorbic acid. Um, and do that 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. So that because that goes through a different method, you can actually get higher levels. So if you have enough ascorbate, and then big deal is all the minerals, trace minerals. We need zinc. We need magnesium, molybdenum, manganese, um, selenium, and manganese. Yeah, those are the main ones. But I would get a mineral. You can get it like from Dr. Wallach or some other person online, and they have all the different minerals that we need, and they have it in a liquid form. You could drink, a little bit of that all day, put it in your water, and drink it. But in addition, you want to get those main guys that I mentioned: the zinc, magnesium, manganese, um, the selenium, and those are the main ones. Yeah. Make sure you got a lot of those, okay? And especially selenium, especially the manganese, especially all of them. Um, and I think you're going to find she's not so demented. You got to stay on it. Stay on it. Do a 3 or 4 week, 6 week colon cleanse. Green juice cleanse. Just drinking green juices. Change everything. I promise you. Change everything. Make sure you're using organic um, vegetables. Yeah. Um, let me. Turn on the air conditioner or something. It's crazy. Wow. Phew. Very hot. Stuffy. Um, but I mean, yeah, because this. Um, but the chelation is very important. All those things I just told you are very important for Alzheimer's, Marilyn, or whatever. There's no such thing. They make these up. All these names are made up. You have to understand. They're made up. They make these names up. They didn't exist 100 years ago. Most of these. Most of the names did not exist. And so I would not say that about your sister. I would say she's extremely toxic and needs to be detoxified, is what I would say. And she needs to be replaced by real food. That's what I would say. Don't give it that name. It's not that. Okay. Now here's another one. It's where is it again? All right. Well, the question here is, hi, Dr. Lodi, can you give any advice on an abdominal aneurysm? My friend wants to avoid an operation. Many thanks, Marilyn. Okay, Marilyn. An aneurysm, as you probably know by now, is a thinning of the arterial wall. And in the abdomen, we have what's called the abdominal aorta. Right? So the heart beats through the aorta, and it goes around that way, and then you have the abdominal aorta, which splits into all the other arteries. Now it gets thin. I had a person the other day who said that theirs had ruptured, and they found that it was infected with funguses, and they thought that was the cause, but then they treated it with antibiotics, not antifungal. So I don't know, but it got better anyway. But the point is, we now know from a long time ago that selenium is probably selenium deficiency is probably the most common problem. Problem, most common reason for aneurysm and heart failure, selenium deficiency. So, for example, all of our redox, remember the body requires redox. The difference between a corpse and a non-corpse is the fact that it has redox biochemistry going on. Redox is reduction, which is antioxidation, same thing, and it's donating of electrons, and oxidation is taking of electrons. So that results in the flow of electrons, okay? Now, two really important antioxidants in that process that are required are the glutathione peroxidases and the thioredoxin reductases. Okay, they're in the cell, and they both require selenium. And then we look at, for example, in the heart, the cardiomyocytes, and the mitochondrial function, all that has association with micronutrient content. So the micronutrient content we're talking about our vitamin A. Of course, I forgot to mention that vitamin A and D before for the lady with what they're calling Alzheimer's. Yeah. Vitamin A, calcium, magnesium, selenium, iron, zinc, and vitamin D and iodine. And I didn't mention iodine either. So iodine is very, very important. And you get it in the form of iodoral, which has got iodine and iodine. Be taking that. In the vitamin D, you want to be getting get your level up to about 100. But why? Because vitamin D has to be transported in the body by vitamin D binding protein, which is made in the liver, and it will only make enough vitamin D binding protein to bind the amount of vitamin D that's in there. So the higher the vitamin D, the more the vitamin D binding protein, and but the vitamin D binding protein also is necessary to activate macrophages. So it's very important for your immune system. All right. So now, so it's deficiencies in micronutrients which result in aneurysms and heart problems, but also more specifically the selenium. And selenium is because there are many, many selenoproteins that are moving around. So when you get selenium as a supplement, you might get selenomethionine. Methionine is a particular type of amino acid, and it's chelated to it's connected to that. So when you can easily absorb this. This is what plants do. Plants take the minerals they bring up from the ground and they attach them to either to an organic acid or to an amino acid, and then they're absorbed. Right? They're made bioavailable. So there are lots of circulating selenoproteins that are actually considered as protein biomarkers for our selenium status. Anyway, it turns out that it used to be that the adequate selenium was considered 70 micrograms per liter. Now it's probably around 100 micrograms per liter. Anyway, there are studies that were done with selenium content and lead with abdominal aorta. Now, remember what's the problem with heavy metals? We often talk about heavy metals: mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, lots of them. Well, what do? Well, they actually go in, and as we've mentioned before, every enzyme in our body, which is mediating a biochemical reaction that is occurring at 36 septillion times per second in our body, okay? It's quite a bit. Every one of those has a mineral associated with it that acts like the battery. It allows the energy to get in there. Okay, so every enzyme has an associated mineral, which is which energizes it. So without that mineral, that enzyme will not work. Okay, so lead is coming by in the circulation, and it has a higher affinity. It takes the place of that selenium, turns off that enzyme. So does mercury. So what they do, they have a stronger affinity. They're stronger, so they displace the micronutrients. So you've got to take you got to make sure you got lots of the other ones too. But they found that the serum selenium level is lower in patients with abdominal aortic aneurysms than in healthy volunteers. And the selenium concentration was inversely correlated with the aneurysm. And you know where I learned about this way back when, 1992? From a Dr. Joe Wallach. If you never heard of Joe Wallach, find him and listen. He's he made a tape which I loved in '92, I think it was, called "Dead Doctors Don't Lie." And the reason he made that, the reason he had that title is he said, look, the average age of doctors is about usually dies with the average of around 57 years of age. I don't know when he got his data. And the average non-doctor lives to about, was it 76 at that time. So he said, why would a group of people who live to the age of 57 take any advice from a group of people? I mean, why would a group of people who live to the age of 76 take any advice from a group of people who live to the age of 57? Thought that was pretty clever. But this guy was like, he had a degree in agriculture, was working with plants, and then he went to veterinary. Nutritionally helped them. So that's where they learned all this, and I learned a lot about minerals at that time. But that's where I learned about selenium and aneurysms. It's very interesting. It's you're not going to hear it from the. So that's what he should be doing. Is that and eating again? Do all the cleansing, clean the colon, do all that. You want to get your body clean as possible. You want to restore health. You can't just be focusing on one aspect because the body is not is one system. So you can't. You know, if you're cleaning your liver, you're cleaning everything. If you're cleaning your kidneys, you're cleaning everything. There's no. It doesn't. It's all one system. Okay. If you think about about every minute we're pumping 5 liters of blood through the body. Every minute. It's going everywhere. So it's just one big system. So you have to clean that system out, do the colonics, do the juice cleansing, and then get back. Then um, when you start eating again, eat real food. Real food is what the earth produces. Get lots of minerals and stuff like that. Question by Jennifer: will you please talk about what is acceptable blood pressure for a 49-year-old female? I feel they lower the range to put you on medication early. I thought I learned a while back it was 100 plus your age. Well, no, no, no. Okay, when we talk about acceptable for a female of 49 years old, that's like what they do is they um, they put, if you look at reference ranges of blood tests, they uh, they put it for age groups. Now, it's interesting when they do that with hormones and they do it with age groups. Uh, they're saying that, oh, because you're this age, you're older, then your hormone level could be very low, and that's normal. But normal is not healthy. Okay, so in other words, what we all want to have is we want to have optimal health. We all want to have our bodies as healthy as possible. So what we need to do is do the juice feast for 3 to 6 to 8 weeks. Colon hydrotherapy twice a week for 6 weeks, then once a week for 12 weeks, then twice a month. Okay? Yeah. Go to bed early. Move around all day long. Every 90 minutes, get up and do something vigorous for 10 minutes. Then sit back down. Unless you have an active life, unless you're a gardener or something like that. Um, Learn to turn off your mind by praying and meditating at least 5 times a day. And meditate by listening to your breath for 2 minutes, 5 times a day. You want to get your blood pressure down because regardless of what age you are, the higher your blood pressure, the more uh, you're going to, the more pressure you're going to be putting on the lining of the blood vessels. They will become stiff and hard, The heart will become stiff and hard. Doesn't matter what age you are. You don't want it to go high. You want it to be down around. I mean, really healthy is like 120 over 70. Okay, and you're going to go higher, but you don't have to. The other thing is water fasting. When you water fast, um, and I would say water fast is a minimum of 5 days. It's easy, much easier than a juice cleanse. 5 to 7 days. The longer, the better. Okay, what that results in renewal of the endothelial cells, the cells that line the arteries and the heart. Because the beta hydroxybutyrate, which is the main ketone, and you can only get super ketotic with water. There's no ketogenic diet that can do it. We had a guy on, he did 6 days of water, his ketones were 6.7. You don't get 6.7. You don't. You need that, and that'll restore your endothelial cells and bring you down to a healthy. So yeah, I mean, don't look at your age. Look at the fact that you want to be a healthy human being, right, Jennifer? You want to be a healthy human being, and you don't want to be for. It's kind of like someone says, you look really good for your age, right? How's that feel when someone says that? If someone says that to me, that means they just told me I don't look good, or yeah, you're pretty smart for your age. Whatever they say for your age. Whenever you qualify with for your age, it means it's like it undoes whatever you were saying, right? Okay, so yeah, chemtrails. Okay, this is Shelly. Hi, I'm wondering what we can do to mitigate nanoparticles in the chemtrails. Wow, Shelly, you're right. Well, the chelation, move, move, chelation, move, chelation. Uh, Yeah, it's only chelation that can really do it, and just doing a good thorough cleanse, like all the same things that we're talking about. Remember, the body is one system, so clean it out. Um, but the problem with metals is they're sticky; they'll get stuck into tissues and things like that. One good thing for those is you can get binders. You can use the binders, humic and fulvic, um, other kinds of binders, and chelation. But really, I don't see chemtrails in Asia, like I don't see them at all over there. Here, there's like, whoa! I look at the skies, I'm like blown away. They're getting away with it. But I would just keep cleaning. Do your juice feasting frequently. Eat healthy foods. Go to sleep early, and chelate. You can be taking oral DMSA, 500 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a week, before you go to bed at night, and maybe EDTA. Get some EDTA orally and take that in the mornings if you don't have a doctor that can help you. A couple times a week. I just got to start keeping these things moving. Got to get out of there. Okay, this is from a Lanin. Lanin. Yeah. Hi, I have liposarcoma and have had many surgeries. The chemo is not working and the tumors are growing. Yes, can you help me? Well, sure, Lanin. Um, for those of you who don't know, sarcoma is a type of CFC that originates from what they call mesoderm, from the embryo. So muscles, fat, cartilage, bones, as opposed to carcinomas, which is what most of the CFCs we think about: colon, breast, pancreas. Um, so liposarcoma comes from fat, fat tissue. Well, chemo will never be the answer. So you've got to do. There's many other things. We've got to understand what it is. How did it come about? And we need to remove all possible toxicities. So you need to go to a biological dentist and have them do a 3D cone beam um, CT on you to see if you have any cavitations, or if you have any root canals or cavitations. You got to get those cleaned out by a biological dentist, not by a regular dentist. And that's that. You got to get rid of all parasites by doing at least 12 cycles of the parasite cleanse, and you've got to do at least a 6 week, 3 to 6 week juice cleanse, and chelation once a week, vitamin C several times a week. Then you got to be taking oral vitamin C, oral vitamin A, oral vitamin D, oral iodine, oral melatonin. Um, and there's lots of stuff you can do, and you can get intravenous ozone and lots of things you can do. You've got to, you'd be happy if you give us a call at an Oasis of Healing. We'd be happy to help you in Arizona, or you can try to make an appointment with me, and we can, I can help guide you and help you find somebody that's in your neighborhood, doctors that are in your neighborhood that would be willing to collaborate with me. That would be great. I'd be happy to do that. But the chemo will never work because it's just going after a manifestation of an underlying condition. It's not going to help. Like, you pick all the poison apples off a poison apple tree, you cut them all off. You didn't solve the problem because you're going to have a new harvest. Okay. So I would say you got to get if we can do a consult, I can recommend, or I can help you do it at home, or just call our center in Arizona. But otherwise, I can help you wherever you are. drlodi.com, you can go there, or you can go to our clinic, which is anoasisofhealing.com. But you can't just do chemo. You've got to find out what's causing it, get rid of that too. Then you can. Okay, this is from Kathy. Is it okay to eat fruit if you're fighting CFCs? Does the fructose feed CFCs? Actually, they're called the GLUT receptors, right, for picking up sugar. And GLUT1 through, I think, GLUT8. Anyway, GLUT5 is fructose. So yes, fructose can be used. It doesn't stimulate insulin, which means that the CFCs won't eat first. They'll have to eat at the same time as the other cells. But it does. But you remember, you can't starve them, because by starving the CFCs, you starve yourself. So you can eat some fruit. Always eat fruit alone. Don't eat the really sweet fruit like bananas and stuff, but you can have a little bit of fruit. But you always eat it alone. Don't eat it as an appetizer or as a dessert, because it'll ferment. And don't eat a whole lot of it, so you get a big spike in glucose. Because remember, most fruit is all either a combination of fructose and glucose. Like a banana is like, I think, 60% glucose. It depends. But yeah, it does. Fructose does. But it's also good fuel for our healthy cells. So you just got to eat things in appropriately. So you eat some fruit, not a lot. Make sure it's as low glycemic as possible, meaning it's probably got less glucose. And you can look up the nutrient content of any kind of fruit, so you can find out. Okay, here's from Rena. She was diagnosed with AML, large tumor in my left calf muscle. 2 months. Did chemo and radiation. I thought AML was a death sentence. With or without treatment, is there anything else I can do? I tore my calf muscle 5 months ago, and the doctor thought it was a hematoma, which should go away on its own. It didn't go away, got bigger and bigger. I just had a bone marrow biopsy today, and they said that if the bone marrow biopsy is clean, then they need to do another biopsy of the tumor. Right, so AML, acute myeloid leukemia, originates in the bone marrow, but AML specifically is known for its extramedullary manifestations. The medullary refers to bone, so extra refers to outside of. So outside of bone manifestations, there are with AML, and it can form, and then it becomes what's called the myeloid sarcoma, just because it's of myeloid origin, meaning the bone marrow, but it's in a particular, like the calf muscle, and it could produce, remember we were talking about any kind of CFCs from from a muscle or bone or fat or anything, is called a sarcoma. So it's be a myeloid sarcoma. But it's all the same. It's just you could think of that as like a metastasis of the primary. So you've got you and a lady with liposarcoma really need some intense program right now. You need to do thorough cleansing, and you got to do your bioidentical. I mean, your biological dentist. I mean, you've got to be really, really powerfully serious and get strong about this. Otherwise, the system will gobble you up. Okay, so now you need to, you need some help. I really wish you guys would give us a call. Um, it's really this hard to deal with. A lot of you folks, it's so hard to deal with this on your own. Um, that's one of the things I'm gonna do with the CFC guidance group is try to guide everyone I can in large groups, because I know not everybody has the money. I certainly wouldn't have the money to afford this stuff. My clinic, I couldn't go to it. I know. But remember, all of us, whatever we got, logic, we got to look at our mouths. We got to do a 3D cone beam CT of our mouths. Root canal is redone with ozone, and then, sterilized with ozone, and then they use PRF from our blood to seal it off. They also take a look at our gums and our tongue position, airway. There's so many things that are part of it. And then we got to do cleanses, change our lives. And there's like B17. All these are really, really important because they're not toxic. They're metabolic. They're eliminating CFCs because the CFCs don't have certain enzymes, but it's not toxic. Healthy cells have the enzymes, so it's actually good for them. Yeah. It's getting so dark. What happened here? Oh, come on. Jesus, live discontinued. Why? Why live discontinued? Why is it on, on so weird? All we were talking about was liposomes. Why would you do that? I'm on Instagram. Thank you. Jeez. Okay. Parasite protocol in the United States, you go to see Dr. Simon Yu, YU, in St. Louis, Missouri. He will give you one. He's the best. Dr. Simon Yu, YU, St. Louis, Missouri. But let me go on. I'm going to finish these here. So listen, Rena, with your AML, perhaps myeloid sarcoma. So if the bone marrow biopsy is good, I guess what they're going to do is then they want to biopsy the tumor again. No more biopsies. The biopsies just make things spread. You don't need biopsies. You know it's a problem. You want to put a specific name on the problem? Is that going to help? Believe me, ask them. If you get what are you going to find? Could you possibly find from the biopsy that's going to help you change what you're going to do, and then in the end, regardless of what you find, are you going to be able to help me live a normal life? Ask them that first, okay? And if they're honest, they're going to say, oh, no. So all it does is make it spread. I've got data to show you that. I wish I'm going to do that when we have our, if you can join the CFC or CFC, what do you call it, guidance group. With that, I'll be able to have it on Zoom so I can show you some of this research. So I want you to see that I don't make this up. Okay, but we've got to get, you got to do the cleansers. Remember, you got to just do everything we've always said. This is from Nancy. What can you use for tonsil squamous cancer CFC pain? Well, okay, tonsil squamous. Well, first of all, you can get something like that's called, I don't know where the pain, if it's deep or if it's on the surface, but you can get something from, you have your doctor order it, or you can maybe, I don't know if you can get it over the counter. It's called viscous lidocaine. It's lidocaine that's in a kind of like a gel form. And you can just put it back there and it'll just numb it up. That's good. But also for any kind of CFC pain, you get really strong 4-to-1 THC to CBD cannabis suppositories, very pure. Try to get it down to under 20 micrograms, the filtering, and make them into suppositories, and put them in the outer 2/3 of your rectum, and that way it'll be absorbed just straight into your systemic circulation, not through your liver, so you won't get psychoactive. There won't be any high from it. You could do 500 milligrams 3 times a day, or twice a day, or 3 times a day, or maybe cut 1.5 twice a day, 750, whatever you need to do, and that'll get rid of the pain. But at the same time, it'll be getting rid of the CFCs too. It's very, very good. Okay. Okay, hello again. This is from Sarah. I've been taking ivermectin and Fenbend for a little over a month, and I have 2 questions about it. What's going on with the weird vision from the ivermectin? Mine is usually gone within an hour after waking, but occasionally returns if I go to dark light, go from dark to light or light to dark. Should I be concerned? Others say it passes, but what's your opinion? My OC is hearing its head again. Oh, my OC. It grows so fast. I am trying everything I can on a vegan diet. I had both high-grade serous and carcinosarcoma in the tumor. Anyway, they want me on this antibody, and I want to continue antibiotics. Is there any interaction with them? No, there's no interaction. Okay, first of all, ivermectin does not cause vision problems. Ivermectin is taken by 250 million people worldwide for something called river blindness. Age restricted, okay, big deal. Age restricted, why? Because I'm talking about ivermectin and river blindness, right? But you have on things like, you have most bizarre things on TikTok that are fine, okay. But I'm talking about ivermectin and you make me age restricted? What is wrong with you, TikTok? My God. The most bizarre stuff on there that seems to be okay. And I'm talking about river blindness and ivermectin, and you make me age restricted? I'd like to do a urine test on you, see what kind of things you're ingesting. My God. All right, so anyway, ivermectin is used worldwide, 250 million people, for like 10, 15, 20 years. To combat eye problems. I've never had anybody have visual. That's from something else. Look it up. Look, ivermectin and river blindness, and you'll see. Okay, so it's a parasite that gets in, actually gets into the eye. But remember, for parasites, you're going to need to be on, and for all of you, you've got to be taking, you have to have been to a biological dentist, a good one who knows what they're doing, and you've got to make sure that there are no capitations, there's no um, of root canals. There's no other thing. You have no metals in your mouth. You have no, and that includes titanium implants. Um, and then the other thing is, and then you got to do thorough juice feast, colonics, lymphatic work, movement, going to bed early, all these things, and then turning the mind off with meditation, several 5 times a day for 2 minutes each time. And you need to be taking iodine appropriately, vitamin A, D, and C, the way we've described, the melatonin, and probably some medicinal mushrooms for your natural killer cells. Those are the minimum you take, plus you're eating a healthy diet. So, Imad, you've been dealing with recurring bladder CFCs for a number of years. I don't know what your situation is. Is it, do you know, is it urothelial or is it squamous cell? And have you used antiparasitics? Have you looked at your dental, your mouth? Have you done a thorough juice cleanse? There's all these things. It's really the same. So bladder is one of those ones that can be produced directly by uh, parasite schistosoma uh, and schistosomiasis. What kind of medicinal mushrooms? Shiitake, maitake, turkey tail, um, and Agaricus blazei. Um, I mean, those, if you can be getting those, um, there's a good blend. I mean, Mercola has a blend of fermented ones, but I'd also take a little. It's a good blend. You can take a couple capsules 2 or 3 times a day. Um, he's got a lot of them, a lot of the different strains in there. But Agaricus blazei is a really good one. So maybe get that separately, maybe get turkey tail separately, or maybe rotate them. But they're really important to stimulate natural killer cell, natural killer cell uh, activity. All right, but you've got to the other one to increase natural killer cell numbers. Remember, 70 seconds of stair climbing increases 2 to 6 times. There are different kinds of movements. Look for the podcast with Darren and I. We did a couple now. We're going to do more on that. But movement, um, and then again, the mind. The mind can either knock down or increase tremendously your immunity. The problem is we don't have control over our mind because it's a non thinking is a non a voluntary process, involuntary process. Okay, so you don't decide when to think, and unfortunately, 80% of human thought is negative. And when you get these kinds of words thrown at you, such as astrological signs and things like that, those words will just damage you completely, and they destroy your um, immunity. You can't get, so that's why one of the best things to do is stay away from hospitals, stay away from those kinds of witches and warlocks. Go see a doctor who is in the community, who's able to order testing you need from places that are independent of hospitals. Like you can go to an imaging center outside of a hospital. You can get a blood test at his or her office and sent to a lab. There's a lot of things you don't have to go into the house of horrors. Okay, but then also learning to meditate. Meditating is learning how to be quiet, how to turn the mind off. So 5 times a day for 2 minutes only, close your eyes and you listen with all your heart and soul to your breath. And you might, within 3 seconds, be gone in the other room up the street. As soon as you realize it, come back. And then you're gone again, come back. But if you do this, if it's only 2 minutes, then you go on with your work or whatever you're doing. You do this 5 times a day for 2 minutes, you develop a mind muscle. So pretty soon you'll be able to put the lid on thinking. And believe me, if you can get to the point where you, for 5 to 10 seconds, are just listening intently only to your breathing, nothing else, you go through a doorway at that time. And you wind up in a place called now, which is eternal. It's always been, never began, never ends. It's where God lives. You can't think about it, you can only experience it. So the price of admission to the house of now, which is the house of God, is your mind. The price of admission is your mind. So your mind will take you to that doorway by listening to your breathing. 100%. And as soon as you hear it, you go through the doorway. I'm just telling you. And as soon as you go through that doorway, if we had a catheter in you and we measured natural killer cells, measured everything, it's through the roof. It's called psychoneuroimmunology. All right, now, so the bladder cancer, I got to talk to you because I don't know what you have. If you have if it's a squamous cell, that means it's due to a parasite directly. If it's a squamous cell, if it's a urothelial, then it could be indirectly. But also, there are different ways of treating it. I don't know what they're doing. I use lots of things. We can use if you can get a good interventional or interventional radiologist to what they usually put. They can put a catheter into the artery that feeds the bladder, and then they put in bicarbonate, and bicarbonate can neutralize the tumor microenvironment. There's a lot of things we can do, but I have to find out what your situation is. So, Imad, get in touch with me, please. Here's a question by Lisa. If one is anemic, recommend a diet to increase red blood cells. If you have breast CFCs, thank you. Transfusion is risky. Yeah, I understand. I get it. I get it. So here's the thing. Some sort of metabolic problem, such as you have G6PD and you're taking vitamin C IV, or there are other things that cause hemolysis. So you're either bleeding, or they're bursting through hemolysis. Some way you're losing the blood, or you're not making enough. And you're not making enough either because of nutrition or because you have direct suppression of the bone marrow by something like chemo or other things. So, but in any case, part of the whole making blood cells is due to the relationship. Remember, the body is one system. So the kidneys are sensing the volume going through them. And when the volume's down a little bit, they stimulate they release a protein called erythropoietin, which goes to the bone marrow and tells the progenitor red blood cells to start producing red blood cells. So you can ask your doctor to give you erythropoietin, which is usually called Procrit, 40,000 units. And what you do is you get an IV. It's usually given subcutaneous. You get an IV followed immediately by Venofer, which is IV iron, of anywhere from 50 to 100 milligrams. But if you gave the erythropoietin first, then that means it will stimulate the bone marrow to pull that Venofer in. Otherwise, the Venofer will go straight to the CFCs because they have 15 times more transferrin receptors. But we do that all the time. And you got to get 3 in a row. I would do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday if you do that. Or even a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. But just to rev up that whole process. And the way you can tell if it's working is your doctor looks at your reticulocyte count coming up to see if you're before and after, to see if you're making more red blood cells. And reticulocyte count is looks at the number of young red blood cells coming out, because when you're anemic, and see, normally we're producing red blood cells because red blood cells only live 120 days. So we have a normal turnover. And then when we get anemic for any reason, whether we're bleeding or whatever, our bone marrow starts producing more. So we have a higher reticulocyte count. So if your reticulocyte count is not appropriate for the degree of anemia you have, that means it's not high enough. That means your bone marrow is being suppressed. And you would definitely benefit by erythropoietin. But I would do that, erythropoietin 3 days in a row with Venofer. If your doctor has a problem, I would be happy to talk to them about it. Now, here's a question here by Eva. Iwa. She says, I want to do at least 4 weeks of juice fasting. It's feasting. Fasting is water. It's feasting. The E is for eating because you're eating, you're getting lots of nutrients. I take several supplements from my holistic clinic. Is it okay for me to take them while feasting? It's okay. While you're feasting, juice, it's okay. But if you were fasting on water, then you would not want to take them. And you drink as much as you can, 3 liters, 4 liters a day, and you go to bed early so you don't eat because if you stay up late, you want to eat. After the 3rd day, it's much easier. I don't know what supplements you're taking, but um, they should be fine as long as you're juice feasting. Yeah. Now this is Eva, not Iwa, Eva, and she's regarding oral lichen planus. So, what causes oral lichen planus? How to treat it? Could it be linked to parasites or H. pylori? Well, oral lichen planus is really strange. You can find it. It's on mucosal membranes. You can have it in the oral cavity, in the mouth. It can be in the esophagus. It can even be in the vagina. And they call it, okay, it's a chronic inflammatory disease. It's chronic inflammation. Okay, and it is T cell mediated with, and they call it an autoimmune, right? So they're saying that these CD8, these toxic CD cells, are attacking the basement membrane of this thing. Okay, well, God doesn't make inferior products like that. God doesn't make things that attack itself. And especially if you've got an activated T cell that's attacking, what does an activated T cell mean? It means it had to have had the antigen or the problem presented to it by either a dendritic cell or a macrophage. So the dendritic cell or macrophage found something, showed it to the naive T cell, and it became an activated CD8 T cell. So it's not just, in other words, what's happening is there's something that we don't recognize, that we don't see, that the immune system sees and it's reacting to. Okay? So because then they're you know what their treatment is? The best treatment for this is corticosteroids. Steroids to shrink. It's like, okay. It's incredible. It's incredible how ignorant the medical profession is. It's really incredible how ignorant the medical profession is. Should I say it one more time? It's really incredible how ignorant the medical profession is. I'll say it one more time. It's really incredible how ignorant the medical profession is. Okay, said it enough now. Body does not attack itself. Okay, it's a divine, incredible machine. It only does what's necessary. So, okay, clearly it doesn't see what's going on. Could it be parasites? It could be lots of things, yes, and it is lots of things. So number one, what we need to do is just like you do with everything else. And oral, you got to remember, anything oral, if you have if you've got gingival, anything going on in your mouth, you've got to, number one, think of your gut biome. If your gut biome is off, you're going to have inflamed gums. You're going to have, all that stuff. So you've got to go and you've got to take care of your gut biome, which means you can do juice feasting, and then you're going to do colonics, lymphatics. You can do all that. Then you're going to take probiotics and prebiotics, and you're going to get it back going. Do that continuously for a while, and then when you eat again, you're going to eat food that grew out of the earth. It's called real food. It's called earth food, and you, by the way, are an earthling. You're not an American or a Russian or a German or a Chinese. You're an earthling. We are earthlings. And we don't know it. That's how bizarre it is. But now, I think when if we were living in non-urban centers and non-modern world, our immune systems would be very, very powerful, and we wouldn't need to worry about all these parasites probably as much. But now that we're all weakened and living in this weakened condition, parasites are becoming a problem. So there's protozoal parasites, as you know, which are single-cell organism, and there's worms, helminths, and multiple kinds of them. And they're ubiquitous. It's not that you don't have them. And they're very, very difficult to find. And when they're in us, they're at a microscopic level. They're larvae or eggs. So whoever you are out there with parasites, you need to realize that you're not, even if you think you find out the one that it is, take a combination of ivermectin and I can take mebendazole. And especially if I was looking a little earlier, where was it? I had a question on hydatid in the lung. Her husband had a hydatid cysts in the lung, which is usually echinococcus. Another woman was saying that her and her family have echinococcus, which is a tapeworm. It's a small tapeworm that's found in dogs and other carnivores, but the eggs and larvae, as I say, can wind up in the soil, and you can get it even if you're not eating animals. But even though, and so for that you take mebendazole, and they say 40 to 50 milligrams per kilogram for several months, right? Um, for the echinococcus, but for the hydatid cyst, which is the same thing. So these little tapeworms form cysts, and sometimes they say surgery. You go in and you've got to cut the cyst because the cyst is the way they protect themselves. And by the way, we're always seeing when we do ultrasounds, when we're doing CTs and stuff, they make as just that. We look at it. By the way, there's a couple cysts on the kidney. By the way, there's a cyst in the lung. And no, and doctors just pass it off. What they don't even ask, what's a cyst? Why is it there? What's going on? It wasn't there last week or last month, last year. They don't ask, and I think probably they're all parasites, all these cysts. Okay, so there you go. Linecky. So ovarian cyst. Okay, well, now I don't know what kind you have. Ovarian might be different. You can get what's called a so I can't remember now, but it's a failure to ovulate. Anyway, so ovarian cysts can be there are kinds of cysts that are not necessarily parasites, but if you already got an ovarian cyst, what's come on? Anyway, it's not really a cyst. I mean, it's not due to parasite, but it just means you got to adjust your hormones. You're not ovulating, perhaps, and so in your situation, you've got to get a doctor who knows enough about hormones to check your blood. You can check your blood level initially, anyway, anytime from day 19 to 23 of your cycle, and just see if you're producing enough progesterone. That'll tell you if you're menstruating. I mean, if you're ovulating. What's the name of that cyst? God. Anyway, but other than that, remember cysts in any so that you would what's your name? Lenenke, yeah. So you would need to adjust your hormones, yeah. So now for all of these, you want to take at least three. So you take ivermectin and mebendazole or fenbendazole, but mebendazole is good. And then either niclosamide or praziquantel, or you can do them all. Because remember, they're not only they're not specific. They're going to get all of them because they deal with pathways that CFCs have, that parasites have. And then and you do them 3 times a day for 3 weeks on, and then you take a week off, and then 3 weeks on, and you take a week off, and you do at least 12 cycles, at least. You're also taking antiprotozoals, such as nitazoxanide, which is also called Alinea, 3 times a day, and you're taking a tinidazole, which is a cousin of metronidazole, okay, 3 times a day. And then you want to take antifungals as well, maybe fluconazole or nystatin or itraconazole. Yeah. Okay, and you got to be 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, and you got to be consistent. But if you know for sure, like this one, I can't find it now, but I saw it earlier. They have echinococcus there for sure. Then you've got to say, then okay, I got that, and I got it. And one woman had it, her husband had it in her lung. Then you've got to take in addition to all that, you're going to take all that, but you're going to make sure that you're going to take it all because you need to take it all because you don't really know what else could be in there. But to make sure the mebendazole is 40 to 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So the one woman that had family members do that way. But you gotta find a doctor to help you to order these things. Now we were using 1mg.com, which is an Indian pharmacy. We were using alldaychemists.com, but now there seemed to be a problem. I don't know what happened. People can't get through there. It was the Indian pharmacy. So I don't know why. I mean, maybe they were overwhelmed and now I don't know what happened. But people are telling me they're not able to get through there. So uh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out what if that's true. Are there any others we could use? Because we got to find a place to do it. I mean, unless you go to Dr. Simon Yu or you go to someone else. T cell production. What was that? Someone sent me a message. Wait, let me see if I can find that. Okay. She says. Okay, and then this is a request for testing. Seems to be a thing here. Um, um, okay, for T cell production, one of my good friends is monitoring this and just sent me a notice here that people are asking about T cells. So, okay, T cells are lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are made in the bone marrow, and then if they go to the lymph node, they become B cells. If they go to the thymus gland, they become T cells. Thymus gland gets smaller and smaller as we get older and older, and one of the reasons that the elderly people have much lowered immunity is because they have like a non-functional thymus gland, so they're not making any not making enough T cells. So fortunately there's a 28 amino acid peptide normally produced by our uh, thymus gland called thymosin alpha 1. It actually was approved in 36 countries, FDA approved in 36 countries, including the United States. It was called Zydaxin. And then suddenly they found that it was helpful in one of those things you're not supposed to talk about, right? And so now it became nasty, bad, 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 bad. But anyway, it's still available. And it's called TA1, thymosin alpha 1. And you give yourself, even if you're not older, you give yourself an injection of, it'll come in a powder that is 10 milligrams. Yeah. And you put in 2 cc's of sterile water. And then you take a half a cc and give it to yourself subcutaneously in your belly, which is 50 units on an insulin syringe, teeny little needle, daily for 2 weeks, and then every other day for a while. And this will increase the amount of T cells you have. Now, if you have CFCs, what you also want to do is you want to make sure that those T cells and the dendritic cells and the macrophages and all that are not getting turned off and beaten down when they enter the tumor microenvironment, which they do. So then you get another another peptide that's made by our adrenal gland, and it's 5 amino acids, and it's called methionine and enkephalin, or MET5, and usually comes 20 milligram powder vial. You put in 1 cc of sterile water. You do a half a cc twice a day, 4 days a week, maybe 5 days a week, depending. If you can, we don't really have that because the research doesn't really not clear on that yet. But that will help restore the function of the immune system that got messed up when it entered the tumor microenvironment. It's crazy. It's crazy, but that's very, very important. But you got to have T cells in the first place, so get them up with the TA1. And so So I can't overemphasize what thing. The thing with the parasites is, go ahead, here you are. Here's Chrissy. So you reached out to my office on 2 occasions. They never called you back. I was, what? That's ridiculous. Really? You're desperate. I understand. So you're the one with 3 children too that have echinococcus. Okay, as I said, mebendazole, 40 to 50 milligrams per kilogram. But I don't, you know, yeah. Uh, that's what works for that. But I would do all of them. I don't know how old your children are, how much they weigh, and I don't know what else. I don't know. I wish Chrissy. Um, Chrissy, you reached out to my office. You mean reached out? I'm assuming because I've been out of the U.S. for a while. That reached out means call, email. I reached out to him. I picture all these people sticking their hands out the window. We used the word call, contact, email, stuff like that. Now we're reaching out. Anyway, not just for you, Chrissy. It's for all the people I see. Anyway, how can I get you to? Go to drlodi.com, and there's a thing it's hello at drlodi.com, and I think that's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, go in there and you can see you can send that message will get to somebody that will contact me. Okay. So I don't know what happened with the office. You mean the one in Arizona, right? Anyway, but that's what it is. Mebendazole. I don't know what you were taking. Okay, so then here's Nancy. You're talking about the 5 minutes you prevent for parasites, 21 days on. Is there more that I should do because I perceive that the worms and flukes are not dying off? You got to keep doing it. It's not that you do it. See, I have some die-off symptoms, but can there be more? I can 5 or more inches long. Okay, so yeah, you got to. They're just coming out. You got to just keep doing it. If you're doing all those ones that I suggest, just 3 weeks on, 1 week off. It might take 2 years. I don't know how long it'll take. Ivermectin, mebendazole, niclosamide, praziquantel. Praziquantel is really good for flukes. Praziquantel is really good for flukes, since 600 milligrams 3 times a day. And you do that. So I don't know where you got your cleanse from. Yeah, okay, so yeah, and then you just got to keep doing it. It's not going to happen overnight. They're going to take a while. Remember, they lay up to 2,000 eggs a day. Each egg can become 2,000 worms. So these guys are not going to go away easily. They don't go away easily. They just, yeah. I can't believe that twice. Here's a question here. This is from Precious. It says, how do I get rid of genital herpes? I had since October 23. I have constipation. My weight is 155 female. Not for any medications. How long do I take recommended? Thank you. Okay, so here's the thing. Genital herpes. There used to be they call them type 1 and type 2. Type 1 supposedly originated in the oral cavity. Type 2 originally or initially originated in the genital area, but because of sexual practices, you can have type 2 up here, type 1. But so it doesn't matter what type is in what particular location. But acyclovir is the medicine that they use specifically for herpes. Acyclovir, and you can take um, you can take like 800 milligrams of acyclovir um, 5 times a day when it first starts to come, and it should, or double it for a day or two, for a day, and then down. That usually takes care of it. Now, the thing is, the reason that the herpes and all that come out is because our immunity is low. So we've got to do the cleansing and get our body strong again, take care of everything we've talked about to get the immune system back on track. Another thing you can take is get some capsules try to get some capsules, the health food store, on lysine. Lysine will counteract arginine, which seems to support these guys. But anyway, um, so that's the thing with the herpes, is your immunity is down for one of several reasons. Who knows? You exposure to 5G. I don't know if you got any of the bioweapons injections, or um, I don't, I don't know. Or but anyway, you got to clean up, do really good thorough cleansing, and then you've got to get, for that, you could get the acyclovir, um, and 800 or double that, 4 or 5 times a day, um, for a day or two, and then you go down to one time a day, 5 times a day, um, and it'll go away. But to keep it away, you've got to get your immune system strong. You've got to get your immune system strong, and remember the lysine, that'll help as well. Um, okay, the cyst. Okay, again for your husband, Deborah, if it's a hydatidform cyst, then that means it is from the tapeworm, right? You already know that, right? From the tapeworm that I think is pretty much in dogs. But I wish I could actually try to help you guys. You know, now you also said that he's got bilaz, bilharzia, but which is really just schistosoma, right? You know that it's a schistosome, and those can usually, a lot of times, those can result in urogenital um, or urothelial types of CFCs. But again, the same kind of therapies will get rid of them. So, are you not taking? Are you not taking, or is he not taking? What do you call it? Antiparasitics. All right. So remember, a moment ago I said, well, a moment ago I was saying that if you have it, you're going to take ivermectin, mebendazole, and maybe neither closamide or praziquantel. In his case, if he has uh, schistosoma, you want to take praziquantel. It works very good. You can take them all because you never know what else is in there, and the anti-protozoals, and you're gonna, you take a lot. They're heavy duty, strong medications, and everybody's going to object in the world. But you got to. These guys are not easy to get rid of. 3 weeks on, 1 week off. 3 weeks on, 1 week. And you keep doing it until they're gone, and you will get no herbs, no anything that's going to take care of that except for this. It's a situation that's unfortunate because we've deviated so far from a healthy lifestyle, from a natural lifestyle, that our immune systems are just not strong enough anymore. Okay, so all the good healthy food you're eating is good to do with the cleansing and all that sort of thing, but realize you've got to be on these strong antiparasitics for a long time. Okay, that's just the way it is. There's no way around it. Okay, um, there just isn't. Yeah. So all you guys with the parasite thing, we're gonna have to do. You have to join the parasite group. Here's the best treatment for osteoporosis. This is from Deborah. Best treatment for osteoporosis is, believe it or not, disodium EDTA chelation. So you get two. You take care of two situations. Disodium, okay, EDTA is a ethylene diamine tetracetic acid. It's a chelator. Uh, tetra, 4, acetic acid, acetate. That's 4 negative signs. And then here's the metal with a positive charge. So they grabs them like a claw, like a crab. So chele, I think, is Greek for crab or grab or something like that. But that's where the chelation comes from. So, but as it turns out that when you have the disodium EDTA as opposed to the calcium EDTA, it's a major, major difference. The disodium EDTA, you put it in the bag and you mix magnesium, and the EDTA grabs the magnesium because it likes magnesium more than sodium, and it goes into the veins, you put it into the IV. It goes into the blood, and once it runs into a calcium, it grabs the calcium and drops magnesium. It likes calcium better. So suddenly all the calcium goes down a little bit. So the parathyroid gland senses it and says, we need more calcium. So it uses parathormone, which is one of its hormones, to pull calcium out of the bone. And the calcium comes out of the bone into the blood. But now, as that calcium EDTA is going down traveling along, it sees anything else that's stronger, lead, mercury, whatever. It grabs that and lets go of the calcium. The parathyroid senses, wait a minute, now I have too much calcium. Well, the half-life of calcitonin is longer than the half-life of parathormone, which means the net effect is calcium into the bone. So 40 treatments or so, and osteoporosis is gone. I've done it several times. We did bone density tests, and it was gone. Won't happen with calcium EDTA. But the disodium EDTA, you got to have someone who knows what they're doing, that was trained properly, because you can only do 1 gram per hour, and you need 3 grams usually. But that means that's at least 3 hours. However, depending on age and kidney function, they might have to decrease it. So, and then they have to check your creatinine every time. So, in other words, the dosage can be adjusted. But and that's why they came up with calcium EDTA, because it's a lot easier. You don't have to even think about all that, and it doesn't affect the kidneys, etc. But so people want to come in their lunch hour, just get a chelation. They would push the calcium EDTA and be quick, but not with the disodium EDTA. So that's why, and I think it's probably the only thing I know that reverses osteoporosis. Reverses it. I've seen it. I'm not just like saying it. I've seen a osteoporotic process on the bone density test, and then afterwards it was normal. I said, "Whoa, they're right. It works." So, but you got to have somebody who really knows what they're doing. I would look under ACAM, American College for the Advancement of Medicine, where they always used to be. I don't know if it's still happening. They trained people in chelation, and many years ago, I remember that. That's where I got trained, and and find out somebody in your area that does that was trained by them. Okay, so this is just my last question here, because I just realized how late it was. Birdie, thoughts on biopsy for kidney CFCs? What parasites attack kidney and liver? Okay, so I wouldn't get a biopsy on anything. It's not going to help. It only spreads. But as I said, schistosomiasis, schistosome go for the urogenital system, the uro system, urological system. Liver can be many of them. But that's why you don't even have to worry about which one it is, as long as you're taking the protocol that we talked about. It's a heavy duty protocol. On, off, 3 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 on. You keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. But I would not ever recommend biopsies. Ever. There's never a reason for it. I promise you, we'll talk about that more in detail. And anyway, I guess we gotta go. Yeah. That's why we gotta divide up into these groups, so we can really address specific issues, right? All right, you guys. All right. It's late, 7:15. So Eddie Cup, next week. We'll meet next week. And aloha, namaste, namaskar. Thank you everyone for joining. It's fantastic. We need to keep sharing all this information, and I love the way you guys share on the side and you teach each other. I think that's just beautiful. So we got to, one of the hardest thing, or not one, the hardest thing I found to find when I walk out my door every day is the truth. It's just not available. So let's just keep looking for it. When you hear about it, spread it, pass it on, okay? Because it's the hardest thing to find. All right. And you know what? If considering that, why would we talk about other stuff? There's no reason to talk about things that are not true. So anyway, I love you all, and Sawadee Kap.